Hello mates, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about my future tattoo plans and what I plan to fill all the gaps in on my traditional sleeves with. If you haven't already, check out my tattoo tour to see what tattoos I currently have and where all the gaps are on my sleeves. I'm going to keep to just talking about the plans that I have for my arms and my hands today. I do want to get my whole front, my back, my legs done, but we'd be here all day if I was talking about those as well. If you would like to see a video where I talk about the plans that I currently have for the rest of my body for tattoos, feel free to let me know by dropping a comment below. Some of these plans may change. I imagine it'll be over several years that I'll be filling all the gaps out on my sleeves, but these are my plans at this current moment in time. I'll put up images on the screen as I'm talking as examples / inspiration for what I'm thinking. Now, if we start with my right sleeve, the first thing that I want to talk about is my plans for my right hand. Now, this is a complete cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, and that reason is it looks fucking mega. I want to get a red rose on my right hand. I fucking love seeing traditional red roses on hands. I think it's such a great use of the space available, and obviously it looks hard as fuck. Then in this little gap below my mermaid, I want to stick a tiny little wooden axe. Obviously this gap is kind of small and awkward, but I think because the axe is long and thin, it will fill the gap out nicely. If we then move up my arm, I have this awkward gap in between the mermaid and the guitar. I want to fill this gap with a dagger going through a heart, maybe with some blood dripping from the blade. I've seen Joey Salvage, who did my guitar and my mermaid tattoos, draw a dagger straight onto the skin, so I know that he would do a bang up job of filling this gap out for me with a dagger going through a heart. If we then move on to my elbow, which I've definitely been putting off because it's going to hurt like a little bitch, I want to get like traditional flower fillers surrounding the elbow in the gaps that I have left. I know most people tend to go with a spider web on their elbow, but for some reason that just doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't feel right for me in my aesthetic, and I think this will look super cool and different. Further up my arm, I have this space next to my panther and lady head that I need to fill in. In this gap next to the panther head, I want to get the TCB symbol with a lightning bolt next to it that I think most people would associate with Elvis. TCB stands for taking care of business, which I fucking love. This is something you would see tattooed a lot on greasers' arms in the 50s, and I think it looks rad as fuck. If we then move on to this massive gap that I have on my inner bicep, I want to stick a cobra here. Now, I fucking hate snakes. I had so many nightmares as a child about snakes, but they do make great traditional tattoos. I want the cobra to be black and yellow, kind of like the Cobra Kai logo. I bloody love the Karate Kid, and especially the Cobra Kai show that's on Netflix. Well worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. Then if we move around to the back of my right arm, I have this gap just above my elbow. I want to stick a really old school boxer in there with tattoos and a wee little handlebar moustache. I want him to have his fist taped and look like someone that you wouldn't want to run into in a dark alley. I fucking love this design, and I think there's just something so hard about it. So those are my current plans for my right arm. I'm aware that after I get those, there will be other little gaps that I need to fill, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm not a huge fan of when people fill in all the gaps on their traditional tattoo sleeves with dots or stars. I quite like the look of keeping each piece distinctly separate and having gaps in between each tattoo. So that's the right sleeve done. Let's move on to the left. On my left hand, I want to get a traditional wolf head with his little tongue hanging out, looking like he's about to eat a motherfucker. Again, this is such a classic design and just looks hard as fuck. Then if we move on to my wrist, I have this space below the Clipper ship tattoo. I want to fill this space with a sailor's compass with a few flowers around it. I think that'll fit in really nicely with the Clipper ship, and also I suppose as a reminder to be mindful of where you're heading in life and to seek guidance whenever you're feeling lost. I then have this little gap on my outer forearm in between the greaser and the swallow. In this gap, I want to put a little black and gold cross. As I mentioned in my tattoo tour video, I was raised Christian, although I'm now an atheist, and the cross would represent that part of my life. Moving on to my elbow ditch, I actually want to get something that looks pretty similar to what I have on my elbow ditch on the opposite side. Just a big flower filler with a similar vibe to the one that I have on the ditch on my right arm. Then if we move up onto my inner bicep, I want to get an old school gramophone with some roses around it. I'm a music producer and music is a huge part of my life, and this would represent that on my skin. Plus, you know, it looks cool as hell. I've then got this space above my mum heart, and I want to stick an anchor with some flowers around it in this space. Aside from looking really cool, this would represent to me to, you know, stay grounded, and to not let the ocean carry me off, whatever that means. I'm just talking bollocks at this point, aren't I? Then if we move around to the back of my left arm, I've got this big space back here, and I'd like to fill this with a hand holding a rose. And just below that, just above my elbow, I want the letters XOX. I'd also like the hand to be like a skeleton hand. I think that would look hard as nails. Right, so those are all my current tattoo plans for my arms. As I said, these may have changed by the time I actually get around to getting them, but most of these ideas I've had for 5 or more years at this point, so my mind is pretty made up on all of them. I hope you guys found this entertaining and you were able to follow along with my nonsense. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button and all that other YouTube bollocks. If you like the music that you're hearing in the background, it was actually all produced by me. I have another channel where I post beats/instrumentals for singers to write songs to, so if that is something you're interested in, I'll put a link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.